Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a look at the new Marvel Legends Rintrah Wave Sleepwalker figure. Sleepwalker, believe it or not, is not Green Goblin without a nose, despite what your eyes may tell you, but is in fact a heroic character who acts as sort of a dream police in the Mindscape, which is kind of the plane that everyone's minds connect to when they sleep. And he fights like monsters and stuff trying to get to us through our dreams. Admittedly, like Despair, I'm not super well versed with this character. It wasn't one that really popped up a lot when I was reading comic books back in the 90s. But he does have a very cool design, so I am looking forward to reviewing it. That being said, if you've seen my reviews before, you know this goes. We're going to take a look at Sleepwalker's packaging. They'll open it up. We'll get a quick look at his Build-A-Figure piece, which looks like something a T-Rex would eat. That was a Jurassic Park reference, by the way. And then we'll see Despair himself. I'll check out his posability, his accessories. I'll probably end up doing at least one group shot during the video. And then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts. So Sleepwalker comes in your standard Marvel Legends packaging. You get his Build-A-Figure call out up here. You get just the Marvel symbol, which is how you know he's not part of the MCU or anything. Otherwise, there'd be like a movie logo there. His name is listed as Marvel Sleepwalker because, you know, when these characters have names that are kind of overly generic, Hasbro likes to put that little Marvel bit in there just to, you know, protect themselves legally. We see our Build-A-Figure piece here. We see the main Despair figure with what appears to be his cape or cloak kind of flowing behind him here. Now his arm looks a little bent here. I hope that's like just my imagination, but that joint looks like it's being bent inward by the packaging. I hope that's not the case. You can see it comes packaged with two closed fists. He also comes with some open hands, so you get some more dynamic poses out of him. And if we turn to the side, we can see a bit of his artwork. Looks like he's leaping at something, ready to fight. Same artwork there. Then on the back, you get a much fuller view of it, which looks really, really nice. Like how his cloak is kind of flaring up on the sides there. And I like the lighting coming from like behind him. It's a really nice touch. We can see his name and then his flavor text, which reads, "The Sleepwalker is the guardian of the mindscape, apprehending beings that invade the sleeping minds of humans." So not a lot of info, but yeah, it's pretty to the point in telling you who this guy is. Then on the bottom, we get our wave layout. You get your Rintrah Build-A-Figure. Then you get Doctor Strange, Wong, America Chavez, Master Mordo, Astral Projection Doctor Strange, Despair, and now finally, Sleepwalker. Now this is the last figure I'm reviewing for this wave, and I was debating how I was going to handle taking a look at the completed Build-A-Figure, if I was just going to do it during this video or do it separately. And I decided, I think what I'm going to do is, instead of like wave retrospectives or anything for these, because really Marvel Legends stuff is just kind of all over the place, I think what I'm going to do is instead just have a separate singular video for the Build-A-Figures so that I can look at them, you know, in depth and do some fun as far as group shots. And I'll probably, during that video, bring in the whole wave and maybe just give a quick retrospective within that review. Because I don't want to do it during his review and take the focus off of him, but I also don't want to do a Build-A-Figure review and then separately do a wave retrospective. That just seems a little excessive, so I'm trying to balance it out. If you guys have any thoughts on that, make sure to let me know in the comments section if you think that's a good idea, bad idea. I am, as many of you know, very new to Marvel Legends and reviewing them, so kind of just working it out as I go. Now we get to see Sleepwalker out of the box with his accessories. His Build-A-Figure piece is the left leg of Rintrah, and just like the right leg, it's very posable. It's got the knee bend, the rotation, higher rotation up here, ankle rock, ankle tilt, all that good stuff. And then as far as intrinsic accessories, we get two open hands here. That's about it. Now, he already comes with his cloak or cape, whatever to call it, attached. So you could consider that, you know, an extra accessory, which is why he doesn't have too much laying around. And this will come off. You just got to pop the head off and remove it. And I will say that the head and the hood do seem to be two separate pieces, but from what I can tell, they're attached in the back some way, either through glue or some other means. So I don't think you're going to be able to actually remove the hood from his head, which is kind of unfortunate. I'd like to be able to take his hood off if I wanted to. He's also got universal shoulders, bicep swivel, I was worried about that little bend to his elbow. It's still kind of there, but luckily this piece is soft, so it's really not an issue. It's not going to cause any permanent, like, posing problems. Yeah, got the double bend there. Got the universal wrists. He has an ab crunch. That's ratcheted a little bit. He has the waist articulation here. The belt just kind of sits freely on there, so it might move around as you turn him. He's got the universal hips, thigh swivel, double bend knees. It's got a boot swivel, ankle tilt, and, well, rock and tilt. So, pretty much everything you need. Really, I don't know, he's a little flimsy feeling, but he articulates well. So, in that way, he's a lot like Despair, where I think he uses an older Legends body type that just might not feel as sturdy as, you know, some of the more recent stuff. So, you may have to kind of finagle things a bit, play with them just to get them to pose the right way, because the joints are a little bit floppy, and I think it's, you know, owed to the fact that the pieces that make up the joints are quite soft. So he's definitely one of the least sturdy figures in this wave. Now let's go ahead and check out his hands, the alternative ones. So we'll pop the fists off, put the open hands on. And then you can get this and just come up with even more cool and dramatic poses for this guy. So he works. I wish he just kind of stood up a little more securely and didn't feel so wobbly, but he does look very, very cool. Even if he also does totally look like a Green Goblin cosplayer or something. Okay, so for a group shot, I have our other comic-based character from this wave, the villain Despair. And these two, even though they're really not related in any way, they do have some similar motifs going on, especially when it comes to the whole frayed cloak thing. And they're just both giving off this vibe of like the mysterious veiled figure, you know? Now, I don't know if these two have ever actually faced off in the comics. They may have. There's a whole lot of history there, and I can't possibly get through it all. But I wouldn't be surprised if they have, or if they haven't, I think they should, right? Because you have one who's kind of the guardian of dreams, and then you have somebody who likes to inflict despair on people. You know, he wants to feed off of their sorrow and their fear and everything. Well, a good way to do that is through dreams. So I can definitely see that being some kind of a plot line that's being used to pit these two against each other. So if it hasn't happened already, I think it should. Something that I also think is worth pointing out, these two do appear to share some parts. As far as I can tell, their feet are the same pieces. They both have that kind of pointy boot mold going on. And I think their legs are also the same, at least up to that boot swivel right there. And then their like boot and ankle area is a little bit different. The pelvic piece might be the same too. But when it comes to their torso, the torso is different. He doesn't have the butterfly joints that Despair has, but his torso is also thicker. And then when it comes to the arms, I think the arms are all different, but I could be wrong there. So these two do share some parts and some engineering, but it's only like the most generic of parts. It doesn't make them feel like, you know, one is compromised for the other or anything. And I think the Legends line is a good opportunity for Hasbro because so many of our Marvel comic superheroes are like basically men and women in spandex. You know what I mean? Like just skin tight, really easy to just keep reusing a body type that looks like somebody in spandex. So I think Hasbro knew what they were doing when they took this on. They're like, dude, like let's make X-Men and then we'll just switch out their heads and their hands and stuff. Like, I'm sure that had to factor into it when they were figuring out how to budget this whole line. Now, of course, not every character falls into that, especially when you see the live-action characters who are far less prone to be wearing these little one-piece skin-tight suits like that. So that's why we saw a lot more variation in just this very wave when it came to your MCU guys. I don't think any of those figures shared any parts at all. But when you lean into more comics-inspired stuff, you do see a lot more reuse. And honestly, as long as they deal with mold degradation and they keep the molds good to where they tolerances don't start getting really bad and loose and floppy, I mean, it's not a bad thing. You know, if it works, do it. I mean, one muscular leg isn't going to look very different from another muscular leg, so it just makes sense and does help them keep, costs down, which is already an issue because as much as I, hate how much the cost of, the figures I collect is going up. The Legend stuff going to like 25. On the Transformer side, that's all going to 25. Then, bigger size classes are even more. On the Mattel side of things, with your Motu Origins, those all went from 15 to like 18 now. As much as I don't like that, I also don't fully blame Hasbro or Mattel for these, because when you look at how much plastic is up a lot as far as raw materials. In fact, I use these like kind of quick assemble plastic shelves just as a quick and cheap way to, add more shelf space to my room. They used to cost $25 a piece less than a year ago. Now they are $45 a piece. Massive markup. So I do believe, and normally I'd be more skeptical of the companies, but I do believe they are really kind of doing everything they can to suppress the price increases and still not, go under or, tick off their investors. So I don't fully blame the toy companies for what's happening. I'm not happy about it, but when you're dealing with raw material costs, you can only do so much. And this completes our look at the new Sleepwalker figure. This is a toy that I know at least a decent-sized group of the Marvel Legends fandom was excited about. I actually remember the audible excitement that some people had when they revealed this guy. So apparently he's been a long time coming. Now, I won't pretend that I'm super familiar with Sleepwalker. I kind of only vaguely knew of him prior to all this. So I can't say for myself whether I was excited or not, but I will say he is a cool looking character. I love the whole I don't know if it's bandages or just tattered fabric going on his leg, his gloves and all that. Around the boots. I like the cloak and the way, kind of flows backwards and has its own holes in it. The hood's very nice looking. He's just a cool looking figure. He's fairly simple compared to, some of the other figures in this wave, especially, the live action based ones. But he is cool looking. I like his colors. They very much give me that Transformers Generation 2 vibe of just kind of your bright purples and greens and stuff. But that's kind of the beauty of comic book characters, right? They tend to be so over the top, especially the ones that, are a bit older. I think things have been toned down a little bit and given more realism here in modern years with comics. Personally, I miss the old designs, the quirky, just crazy bright colors, it helps with the escapism, helps make you feel like you're in this whole different world and it's not just some gritty, realistic, somewhat realistic fantasy thing. I liked it when, superheroes were just ridiculous. So I really like him. I think he's very cool looking. I do wish he had more accessories. I'm not sure what he would come with because, like I said, I'm not super familiar with Sleepwalker, but I'm sure they could have taken something from his past and just thrown it in there as, a nice little Easter egg or something. But for what he is, I think he's pretty good. And if you're in the market for a character like this, you like Sleepwalker, or you just like a good Legends toy, a good comic book superhero toy, I think you'll be very happy with him. Of course, that is just my take on Sleepwalker, so now I want to know what you all think of this toy. Are you one of those people that were super stoked to find out about this guy? Have you been waiting on him for a long time? And now that he's here, do you think he's a good figure? Or do you not like him? Do you think the figure's not good? Maybe there's just something about it that you're not a fan of, or you just don't care for the character. Any and all feedback's always welcome in the comments section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining me for this look at the new Marvel Legends Rintrah Wave Sleepwalker. And with all that said, I will see you next time.